Welcome to Macmo Academy. Dear students, in this video, we will understand the topic complex number, its basic concept, and some other things related to complex numbers. So first of all, when we talk about complex number, so general representation of complex number is z is equals to a plus iota b, where a and b are real numbers. This a and b are the numbers that we use which are real numbers, but this I, which looks like I, is actually read as iota, is the imaginary unit. And the value of iota is equals to under root minus 1. So actually the concept of iota or the complex number begins with this thing, that whenever you have a negative number in the square root, so there must be a way to show it. Usually we have, because when we talk about the square root, so it is opposite of square, and whenever we do the square of a number, we always get positive answer. What will happen if the square root is having a negative number? So we will represent it with an imaginary unit which is called iota, and due to this thing we have iota square. So when we will do square on it, we will get minus 1. So this is the basic representation and things related to the complex number. For example, 7 minus 2 iota minus 4 plus 9 iota 3 plus 5 iota. They all are complex numbers, where 7, and you can see over here it's written 2, it's written minus 4, it's written 9, it's written 3, it's written 5. They all are real numbers. But over here there is no iota, but with this number there is iota. So this number is actually the real part of the complex number, and this minus 2 is with iota, so we will consider it, or it is called as the imaginary part of the complex number. So basically complex number consists of real numbers, but this iota portion is called the imaginary unit, and only the number is called the real part of the complex number. So by this discussion, we can understand that a real number, like a real number means minus 3, 4, 1 upon 2, they all are also considered or can be considered as a complex number, as complex number. How? For example, if it is written 4, it is also considered as a complex number. How? We say that its imaginary part is actually 0. So you know that when you multiply something by 0, so it will get over. So a real number is actually, or can be considered as a complex number, but its imaginary part or imaginary portion of the number is 0, right? These things are very important with respect to MCQs. Now, as I have discussed with you, that in a real number there is a real part and imaginary part. So let's understand that. Now let's take an example to understand the real part and imaginary part of a complex number. So first of all, the general way of writing the complex number as I have shown is over here. So the real part of this complex number is actually A, and the imaginary part of this complex number is B. For example, if we have a complex number 7 plus 4 iota. So here the real part of this number is 7. Now be careful with the imaginary part. Usually some people or some students think that this whole A will be considered as the imaginary part, that this is not the case. When you write the imaginary part, so only the number will be counted in the imaginary portion or imaginary part of the complex number with the sign, but this iota will not come. This is the misconception, this is a mistake. For example, you have a number minus 5 minus 8 iota. So the real part of this particular imaginary number is minus 5, and imaginary part of this complex number is minus 8. Let's take one more example. If we have a number minus 9 plus 1 upon 2 iota. So here the real part is minus 9 and the imaginary part is only 1 upon 2. Iota will not be included in it. So this is how we say that the real part or imaginary part of the complex number, and these things will help us in the MCQs. And one more thing which is very important is that sometimes the real part could be 0. For example, if you have a number 6 iota, it indicates that the real part of this particular imaginary number is 0. That's why it is not mentioned over here. So we should not say that it does not exist. It exists, but it is 0. And similarly, if we have, like we have seen previously in this video, that if you have a real number written, let's say 10, so it means that its imaginary portion is actually 0. That's why we are saying only a real part or the real number over here. So this is the basic concept of the complex number. Now let's understand what is mean by conjugate of a complex number. Conjugate of a complex number. Let's see. Conjugate of a complex number means changing sign of imaginary part. Only the imaginary part. And you know what is mean by imaginary part. For example, you have a complex number 6 plus 3 iota. Now how will you represent the conjugate? You will put a bar on it like this. This is how we represent conjugate. And as it is written, changing the sign of imaginary part. So this will be your conjugate of this complex number. Let's take one more example. If you have a complex number 3 plus 2 iota minus 3 plus 2 iota. Now conjugate of this one is minus 3. It will not change the sign of the real part of the complex number. It will only change the sign of the imaginary part. Now let's take one more example. 1 upon 3 minus 4 iota. Now over here, if you want to find a conjugate again, you need to just change the sign of the imaginary part of the complex number. So this is how we find the conjugate of a complex number. Actually, the basic things are very important because it will help you in the later on concepts and it will help you in the MCQs. So students do very silly mistakes or basic mistakes in this, that they get confused that which sign needs to be changed and all that. So remember, whenever you want to find a conjugate of a complex number, you need to change the sign of the imaginary part. Now let's see some important things related to conjugate or properties. So let's say if there is a, first of all we will understand in general way and then we will apply it with the example. Properties of conjugate of complex number. For example, if generally if you have a complex number z is equals to a plus iota b and its conjugate is a minus iota b. So first property is related to addition of these two. So if you will add z plus means a complex number with its conjugate, if you will add it, so what will you get? Let's do it over here. So you can see over here it will cancel and you will get only 2a. So this is a fixed thing. So whenever you will do the sum of a complex number with its conjugate, you will get this answer. And what will happen when you will subtract it? Let's understand. Same concept. If you will subtract a complex number and its conjugate, what will happen? See, do over here a plus iota b. Now let's be careful. When you will do subtraction, always use the brackets. So when it will open, it will change the signs of inside, and this time the real parts will cancel and you will get 2 iota b. So these are two very important properties with respect to addition and subtraction of a complex number and its conjugate. So you can see when they are adding or added, you will get only the sum of the real parts. But when they are subtracted, you are only getting the result of the imaginary parts. So this is very important thing. Now you have any particular complex number, you know how to find its conjugate, and then you can directly do this thing or you can apply the process as well. It's up to you. Now there is one more very important property that needs to be discussed, and then we will do the practice of it. And that property is related to the multiplication. For example, if you have the same condition of the complex number, because the values could be any value, but it will not change this condition that if the complex number is this, so its conjugate will be like this. But if I will say that the complex number is having the negative sign, so obviously the conjugate will change the signs of the imaginary part, so the condition will remain almost same. So now let's discuss the very important property, that what will happen if we have the product of a complex number with its conjugate, multiplication, right? So for that you will write a plus iota b multiplied by a minus iota b, right? Now if you remember the identity of a plus b, a minus b, it will be a square minus b square. So you will get a square minus b square means a square minus iota b square. So when you will apply square on it, you will get iota square, and we have already discussed in the start that what is the value of iota square. Iota square is equals to -1. So let's put over here. So when you will get -1 over here, and there is a minus sign, so minus minus it will become +1. Remember that iota square is equals to -1, and you will apply this square on both. So it will become -1, and then again there is a minus sign outside, so minus minus it will be +1, and 1 multiplied by b will be b. And you know that this square will apply on the b as well, so you will get a square plus b square. And you know that a and b are actually the real numbers, although b is the imaginary part of the complex number, but still it is a real number. So we can say that whenever we multiply a complex number with its conjugate, we will get the final answer as a real number. There is no iota in the answer. So let's do some practice of it. Now let's apply these relations or properties in the question. So let's say if we have a complex number 6 minus 5 iota. If a complex number is 6 minus 5 iota, find z plus z bar. Z plus z bar means that you need to add the complex number with its conjugate. So actual concept, complex number is 6 minus 5 iota, and adding it with its conjugate means that you need to change the sign of the imaginary part. So it will become plus 5 iota, and you can see it will cancel out. So you will get 6 plus 6, 12. So this is the sum of the complex number with its conjugate. Now if we will do the subtraction of it, so what will happen? Let's do the subtraction on the same question. Find z minus z bar. So when we will do z minus z bar, we will get z as 6 minus 5 iota minus 6 plus 5 iota. So we will get 6 minus 5 iota minus 6 minus 5 iota. Now this time the real part will cancel out and you will get minus 5 minus 10 iota. So this is how we can see that it works. Now let's apply the same thing on the third property, which is the product of the complex number with its conjugate, and that is z multiplied by z bar. So when you will do z multiplied by z bar, you already have we already have discussed it, that directly we can do that. We will get 6 square, right, minus 5 iota square. So we will get 6 square as 36, and again iota square will be minus 1, and minus minus it will be plus, and 5 square is 25. So you can see over here 36 plus 25, it will come 46, 56, 61. So you can see over here you are getting a real number. The imaginary portion of the complex number is vanished from here, iota is no more, and you are getting the answer as a real number. So these are few properties that we have applied related to complex number and its conjugate. So in the next video we will discuss that how to find or how to see the questions related to the equality of the complex numbers and absolute value or modulus of a complex number. So these two will be the topic of the next video of this series. In this video we have understood what is mean by complex number, how it is made, real part and imaginary part, and what is mean by conjugate of a complex number, and what are its properties and how we apply it. Thank you for watching the video, and if you have liked the video, don't forget to subscribe our channel.